A friend of mine got in touch with me yesterday and said that he was going to court because he hadn't paid the council tax, and he wanted to show that the council tax was a complete load of old nonsense, that it was a fraud. And I said, well, good luck with that then. I said, at the worst case scenario is you'll end up paying it. So as long as you've got the money in the bank, if you can at any one point go, oh, all right, is this too much? I'll just pay it. The same with lots of different bills that people are challenging at the moment. They can, at the end of the day, just pay them. And then that got me thinking, actually, can they just pay them? Because what would you pay your bills with? This stuff, versions of it, whether it be in the real world, like here, or in a bank in a digital form, it's all part of fiat currency, isn't it? And this is what we're all being paid in, fiat currency. And now most people will go, well, that's fine, quite happy to have some nice notes like this, £20 note. But of course, we know, and if you've been watching the videos recently, we've been talking about money creation, and that these are, of course, just promissory notes. It does say in very tiny letters on there, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20. £20 of what, though? It doesn't actually say. It doesn't say it's £20 of sterling silver. It doesn't say it's £20 of gold. Sterling silver and gold being true money, something that is of value, something that is a finite resource, as opposed to these, which can be printed in their multitude by the government or by the Bank of England with an agreement with the government, as many as they like and whenever they like. Which is a bit strange, because if you can print as many as you want and it's not a limited resource, where's the value in it? You may as well just print hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these and just give everybody a whole load of them, and we can all go to the shops and buy stuff. And they keep taxing us, don't they? And we end up having to give them these things when they could just as well print them themselves, and then whatever they do with that money, they could go and do with it. But we don't have to get involved at all, because these are just backed by absolutely nothing. There's no gold behind them or silver, because we know that some years ago, when they first came out, when banknotes first came out, they were backed by something, because the promise is to pay the bearer on demand the sum of something that was actually there in existence. But they took the gold off. It came off the gold standard, and these are just notes that have an empty promise. Because if you go into the bank now and you say to the bank, it says on here, I promise to pay the bearer the demand of £20, could I have £20? And the likelihood is they'll say, yes, here you go, and they'll give you another one of these for the one that you've just given them. They won't give you £20 of silver. And I've actually heard a story where somebody went to the Bank of England and said, I've come to collect on this promise, and they threw him out and locked the doors. So it's all a bit weird, isn't it? So these are bits of paper that have nothing backed on them. And so when you pay a bill, or an invoice, or you're in court and you've got a fine, or there's somebody at your car saying this is an instant fine, give us the money, you go, well, I can't give you any money because unless you accept gold and silver, and I don't have any on me, what can I do? Oh, and you might be thinking cryptocurrency. That's all right, isn't it? Because that's the new thing, isn't it? But where does the cryptocurrency come on from? Now, I know some people say, oh, but Bitcoin has a very limited amount. And then they talk about how they can divide it up even more and more and smaller and smaller. But where did it originally come from? It's just a digital thing that somebody somewhere went, bing, I've created that out of nothing. A bit like the mortgages that we're all paying for. If you go to the bank and you say, excuse me, I've seen this £300,000 house, I'd like to borrow some money so I can buy that and move my family in there and have a lovely life, thanks very much. And the bank person there says, yes, no problem at all, we'll check your credit references, yes, that's all good. Yeah, come in and we'll sign up the agreement. So you sign up this agreement and you put your signature on the bottom, therefore creating the money. Now, the bank won't tell you that what happens next is your money appears in your account. It isn't moved from the bank's vaults into your account. It isn't given to the bank by anybody else. It just appears. You are just suddenly credited by that agreement that you sign. The money is tapped into your account. It's come from nowhere. Nowhere at all, other than the guy who's tapped it in and has the authority to just put into your account that £300,000 or whatever the amount is. And so then he'll say, we've given you the money and you can now start paying us back every month with interest over 25, 30 years, whatever the term is. Well, it was your money to start with because your signature created that money out of nothing. And they made it appear by simply knowing that the agreement that you had with your signature could be securitized on the markets and they would make more money out of it in the end. In fact, it doesn't really matter whether you pay back the money or not, because they've got 10 times more amount of money than that 300,000 than you've actually borrowed, although they will treat you badly if you don't repay those payments. So that's how the money is created into the system. And as a reflection of that, this is what part of that. This is an empty promise. I mean, if you're in the court and you haven't paid your council tax, for example, then you may say, well, listen, I'll pay you. And they say, fine, pay us. You say, well, there's no point giving you these because these notes are worthless. There's nothing backing it. It's just a bit of paper, fancy bit of paper. I grant you, this one's a nice purple, but Julia's, my partner's favourite colour. And it's got lots of 20s on it and lots of £20, but pound is a weight. In the old days, it would have been £20 of gold or silver, but it's now £20 of we don't know what, mouldy potatoes for all we know. So there's no point giving them that. He'd be much better to get a scrappy piece of paper, write on it the bank of whatever, like the Bank of Vobes, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £20 or whatever the fine is, and put your signature on it. Now your signature is unique. It's unique to you and it has value, just as it does on the agreement with the mortgage. And so that piece of paper that you sign, that promissory note, has huge amounts of value rather than this bit of paper that can be just printed ad infinitum, millions and millions and millions and millions of times, that has no value other than whatever the polymer is, which must be something like half a pence, I would imagine, or even less on the amount that they use. So these are completely valueless, but your promissory note would be. So here's the argument, really, that when a bill comes in, whether it's a utility bill, whether it's the council tax bill, whether it's a tax bill, whatever the bill is that somebody is charging you for, the conundrum comes, how do I pay you? You're expecting me to give you some money. Money is gold and silver. I may not have any gold and silver. So how can I actually pay you? These are bits of paper that have no value whatsoever. So the best I can do is to give you something of value. And even a piece of paper with a stick man would be of more value than these bits of paper because it would be unique. You might go into your back room and say, have I got something that I'm going to take down to the dump? That would have more value than those bits of paper. The point I'm saying is, it seems to me that we can't actually pay our bills, not with fiat currency, because it's not backed by anything. But we could pay our bills, if we were trading in the old-fashioned way, by bartering. So that when, for example, the telephone bill comes in and they say, we want £200 for your telephone bill or whatever it is, or your heating bill comes in, and you go, okay, what about if I come and dig your garden? Or what if I come and clean your windows for a couple of days? That would be fair payment. That would be an equal transaction. I've given you something that has have value and you've given me something of value. But me just giving you bits of paper with no value whatsoever is a nonsense, because that's unfair on you, even though that's what they would like you to pay. The more people are aware that these bits of paper printed by a private company, the Bank of England, for the government, another private company, these corporations have absolutely no value, then we could start not having to pay anything with these bits of paper. After all, we go to work and we give our sweat equity, as they call it, and what we get in exchange is bits of paper with no value whatsoever. Why the hell are we doing that? If I was going to work for a company, I would say, well, look, I'll work this year, you give me I don't know, a 30 grand car at the end of it. That would have more value to me rather than bits of paper that I can do really nothing with.